In an age of bending spines and compromised convictions, the rarest element isn't found in the Earth's crust or deep within distant stars. It's found in men who stand when every incentive screams kneel. Men whose vertebrae aren't just biological structures, but architectural manifestations of something ancient, something unbreakable, something that refuses dissolution even when the entire world turns fluid around them. This isn't about blind stubbornness. Mules have that. Rocks have that. This is about something far more complex, far more powerful, far more necessary in times that test not just your strength, but your very understanding of what strength actually means. This is about developing an unbreakable backbone in a world engineered to break you. The backbone I speak of has 3 dimensions: physical, mental, and spiritual, and each requires deliberate formation through pressure that would shatter lesser materials. Your body isn't just a vessel, it's the primary instrument through which you interact with a world that constantly tests your resolve. The modern environment systematically weakens men's bodies through convenience, through comfort, through the elimination of necessary resistance. The unbreakable man understands this conspiracy of comfort and consciously rejects it. He stands when others sit. He carries what others delegate. He endures what others medicate. He confronts what others avoid. Not from some masochistic impulse, but from the profound understanding that physical fortitude creates options where weakness offers only submission. When crisis arrives, and it always arrives, the man who has deliberately hardened himself through voluntary discomfort possesses capacity that appears almost supernatural to those who've outsourced their physical sovereignty to systems of convenience. His hands can build what others can only purchase. His body can endure what others can only fear. His presence can provide what others can only promise. But physical strength without mental fortitude creates merely an impressive animal, not an unbreakable man. The mental dimension of your backbone forms through confrontation with uncomfortable truths rather than comfortable fictions. In an era where convenient narratives receive instant amplification while uncomfortable realities face systematic burial, the man with an unbreakable backbone develops mental sovereignty through deliberate exposure to suppressed information, through methodical questioning of sanctioned certainties, through disciplined engagement with ideas labeled too dangerous for consideration. He reads what others avoid. He questions what others accept. He calculates what others estimate. He verifies what others trust. This mental sovereignty doesn't arise from contrarianism for its own sake, but from the recognition that truth rarely aligns perfectly with convenience, with comfort, with consensus, or with concentrated power. The unbreakable man's mind becomes his own not through isolation from external input, but through the development of such formidable filtration systems that he can extract nourishment from even poison, can detect falsity even when masterfully presented, can identify manipulation even when artfully concealed. But physical strength and mental sovereignty without spiritual alignment creates merely an impressive machine, not an unbreakable man. The spiritual dimension of your backbone, perhaps the most crucial yet most neglected in our mechanistic age forms through connection to principles that transcend temporary circumstances, transient opinions, and tactical advantages. The truly unbreakable man anchors himself not to shifting social landscapes or fluctuating ideological fashions, but to values so deeply embedded in human experience that they have withstood centuries of assault from every conceivable direction. He honors what others discard. He preserves what others abandon. He reveres what others commodify. He protects what others exploit. This spiritual alignment doesn't manifest as rigid dogmatism, but as unshakable orientation, a North Star that allows navigation through even the most chaotic environments without becoming lost in the wilderness of moral relativism or ethical opportunism. These three dimensions, physical, mental, and spiritual, interlock to create the unbreakable backbone that allows standing when kneeling appears not just easier but utterly inevitable. But understand, this backbone doesn't form through casual consumption of inspirational content or half-hearted implementation of productivity systems. It forms through deliberate exposure to precisely calibrated pressure that permanently alters your fundamental composition. Consider the formation of natural diamonds. They don't emerge from carbon that experience gentle encouragement or moderate stress. They form only when carbon endures both extreme pressure and extreme heat, forcing a complete structural reorganization at the molecular level. You are that carbon, and the pressures required to transform you into something unbreakable cannot be outsourced, simulated, or moderated without compromising the result. You must voluntarily seek out circumstances that demand everything you have, and then something more. This isn't masochism, it's metallurgy. You're not punishing yourself, you're purifying yourself. You're not diminishing yourself, you're distilling yourself. You're not destroying yourself, you're developing yourself. But make no mistake, this transformation demands genuine sacrifice, not the superficial sacrifices celebrated in commercialized self-improvement, but the profound surrendering of comfort, of convenience, of conformity, and of compromise. Because here's the brutal truth, few will speak. The world doesn't just prefer that you kneel, it systematically engineers conditions to ensure your knees bend before you've even recognized the pressure. The modern environment isn't neutral toward masculine strength, it's hostile to it. Contemporary culture doesn't passively accept male fortitude, it actively undermines it. Current conventions don't merely overlook masculine virtue, they deliberately invert it. This isn't paranoia, it's pattern recognition. Systems that require compliance function more smoothly with compliant participants. Structures that demand consumption operate more profitably with insatiable consumers. Frameworks that necessitate dependence perpetuate more effectively with dependent constituents. And nothing threatens these systems, these structures, these frameworks more fundamentally than men with unbreakable backbones, men who cannot be intimidated into submission, manipulated into consumption, or indoctrinated into dependence. Men who stand when standing appears not just difficult, but dangerous. This explains the systematic targeting of masculine strength through redefinition, through pathologization, through mockery, and through marginalization. It's not random cultural evolution. It's deliberate environmental engineering designed to produce precisely the opposite of what we're discussing. Men with infinitely flexible spines who adjust their posture to accommodate whatever pressure currently dominates. But you've chosen a different path. You've decided to develop capacity that the current environment actively discourages. You've committed to cultivating strength that contemporary influences deliberately undermine. You've resolved to embody virtues that modern conventions systematically devalue. This decision places you in direct opposition to prevailing currents, not because you seek confrontation, but because you've chosen formation that inherently threatens systems requiring your malleability. Your unbreakable backbone isn't just personal attribute, it's revolutionary declaration. Your vertical stance isn't just physical posture, it's paradigm rejection. Your unflinching alignment isn't just individual choice, it's systemic disruption. And this guarantees opposition not just from obvious adversaries, but from unexpected quarters, from those who initially claimed to support your development, from institutions theoretically designed to enable your success, from relationships ostensibly formed for mutual benefit. When you truly stand while others kneel, you become visible in ways both inspiring and threatening. You inspire those secretly yearning for permission to rise. You threaten those heavily invested in universal genuflection. This is where most men falter. Not in the initial commitment to development, not even in the disciplined pursuit of capacity, but in the steadfast maintenance of position when their stance generates legitimate consequences. They stand until standing costs them comfort. They stand until standing threatens relationships. They stand until standing endangers privileges. They stand until standing requires genuine sacrifice. And then, faced with tangible costs, rather than theoretical considerations, their imperfectly formed backbones reveal critical fracture points. Their incompletely developed capacity demonstrates fatal limitations. Their insufficiently embodied convictions display decisive vulnerabilities. This is why formational pressure cannot be simulated, moderated, or abbreviated without compromising the result. The backbone that buckles under moderate pressure serves no purpose when genuine weight arrives. And genuine weight always arrives. It arrives not as theoretical challenge, but as concrete choice between painful integrity and comfortable compromise. It arrives not as hypothetical scenario, but as immediate decision between costly principle and beneficial pragmatism. It arrives not as philosophical question, but as urgent selection between difficult truth and convenient falsehood. In these moments, these crucible moments where theoretical commitments encounter practical consequences, you discover whether your backbone development has been cosmetic or comprehensive, superficial or structural, theatrical or transformational. But if you've deliberately pursued transformation, if you've systematically exposed yourself to precisely calibrated pressure across all dimensions of development, these moments become not breaking points but confirmation. Points. Not tests you might fail, but evidence you've already succeeded. Because the unbreakable backbone, once genuinely formed, doesn't experience resistance as threat, but as confirmation, as clarification, as purification. The ultimate measure of your backbone isn't found in ceremonial acknowledgement or symbolic representation, but in actual load-bearing capacity under genuinely adverse conditions. Can you maintain alignment when misalignment offers immediate advantage? Can you uphold principle when pragmatism promises instant benefit? Can you preserve integrity when compromise presents easy escape? Can you endure temporary isolation when conformity offers immediate acceptance? These aren't abstract inquiries, but concrete determinations of whether your development has produced authentic transformation or merely convincing simulation. Because when systems fail, and they always eventually fail, and structures collapse, when frameworks disintegrate, when artificial supports dissolve, the difference between authentic capacity and convincing performance becomes not just theoretically significant, but practically vital. The genuinely transformed man with truly unbreakable backbone transitions from normal operation to crisis response, not with panic, not with disorientation, not with paralysis, but with the calm, centered deployment of capacity specifically developed for precisely such circumstances. He doesn't just survive what breaks others. He stabilizes environments collapsing around him. He doesn't just endure what crushes others. He establishes order within surrounding chaos. He doesn't just withstand what destroys others. He creates structure amidst encompassing disintegration. This is the ultimate purpose of the unbreakable backbone. Not performative distinctiveness, not social superiority, not hierarchical positioning, but functional capacity when function itself becomes precious precisely because it has become rare. The capacity to remain vertical when horizontal becomes not just common but seemingly inevitable. The ability to maintain structure when dissolution becomes not just prevalent but apparently unavoidable. The power to preserve sovereignty when submission becomes not just expected but seemingly required. This is the legacy of men who stand when others kneel. Not just personal distinction but transformative influence. Not just individual resilience but communal reinforcement. Not just private virtue but public recalibration. Through their unyielding vertical alignment, they create reference points in environments where orientation itself has been lost. Through their uncompromising structural integrity, they establish templates and contexts where formation itself has been forgotten. Through their unflinching sovereign presence, they provide examples in circumstances where exemplars themselves have vanished. So as you continue developing this rare, essential capacity, as you systematically integrate physical, mental, and spiritual sovereignty into unified, unbreakable structure, remember that you're not just creating personal capacity, but reconstructing endangered pattern. Not just developing individual strength, but revitalizing essential template. Stand therefore, not just because you can. Stand because your standing helps others remember they can. Stand not just because it distinguishes you. Stand because your distinction helps others recognize what's possible. Stand not just because it fulfills your potential. Stand because your fulfillment helps others identify their own. Your unbreakable backbone isn't just your strength, it's their possibility. Your unflinching posture isn't just your stance, it's their template. Your unyielding alignment isn't just your position, it's their permission. In a world of kneeling men, the man who stands becomes not just exceptional individual, but essential reminder of capacity we've not lost, but merely forgotten capacity that slumbers not just in you, but in every man who's temporarily forgotten what genuine masculine strength actually means. Stand therefore as if everything depends on it, because increasingly it does.